Hello, you. It's me. And I don't know, I was having trouble sleeping. Myself, like a lot of people, are struggling financially, and sometimes it keeps you up at night because you're trying to, figure out, I can allocate this money to this thing, excuse me, and this to this thing, and I can put this off for a little bit longer. You know how it goes. And so I started, I guess it's called doom scrolling, where you just, watch quick video after quick video. I was doing it on YouTube because I don't have a TikTok account. Um, so I was looking at shorts and just scrolling through shorts. And I think most people who have the ticky tacks also post it on YouTube, so I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. Anyway, uh, when I scroll through things, what I usually like to listen to is the stories. I love stories, and so they'll have some, I don't know, silly thing going on, somebody baking something, or decorating something, or cutting cloth to make something, crafty stuff. But the stories themselves are usually about cheating husbands or wives, or a bad boyfriend, or you find out something terrible about your sister, or stuff like that. And I realized that all the stories always end with, so I went and I worked hard and I made a life for myself. And then they all came begging to me, and I told them no. And after hearing this over and over again, the stories just weren't as interesting anymore because they all seemed to be the same. I was wronged, and then I championed over them, and then they came crawling back to me, and I said, ha ha ha, no, because you weren't there for me. And I just thought that's a really nice fantasy. But how often, now, if that has happened to you, I think that's awesome. And congratulations. Real life stories are really cool when things like that happen. But I think about my life and I'm like, that's not how my life turned out at all. I had horrible family life, and it seemed like every time I tried to improve my life, I would get there just a little bit and then it would fall again. I'll give you an example. I had my child. I moved to a different town that was about an hour away from where I grew up. And I thrived. I wasn't rich, but I just really loved it there. I felt successful there, and I did feel like I gained some success. I moved to a nice little place, and my child was in a good school with a great teacher, and we were taking care of things. And I know this sounds silly, but for me, being able to make dentist appointments to make sure my child's teeth was healthy, to doctor appointments to make sure that they are looked over and they're healthy, just the simple things like that, making sure that we got good fresh food. All these things were so important to me, and I could do them, and I felt good about myself. I felt good about my standing. I started gaining a little more money. I could go and buy well, at the time it was a VHS tape. Um, but I could go and get a VHS tape for my child, a Barney tape so that they can watch Barney anytime, just little things like that. I would take my child out to eat once a week. whether it was at a Denny's or at a McDonald's or, whichever. Um, the point was is I could afford these little things. And it just made me feel really good. It made me feel like I was really giving my child what she needed. I was happy. She was happy. We were doing really well. The thing is that I really wanted to go to school. I felt like that's the one thing that was missing. And my child at this time was in school. They were first grade. And I thought, I could probably, because I worked nights at that time. And I thought, I could maybe take a couple classes during the day while my child is in school. That way it won't interfere with anything. And at this time, I was still communicating regularly with my father. And my father says to me, I'll tell you what, if you move back into the old neighborhood, I'll watch your child while you go to school. That way you can take a couple more classes. You can do it, in the afternoon if you need to. Because sometimes classes aren't always available when you want them. And my father said, you know what, I will help you. I will help this so that you can do this because I know how important it is to you. And I thought, oh my God, really? You'd really help me with this? And he said, absolutely. I'll watch her every day you need. I'll pick her up from school. I'll pick your child up from school and take care of your child. And you can, go to school yourself. And I think that's a really great thing for you. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. So I decided, I like where I'm at. I'm really enjoying where I'm at. But if I have the ability to go to school, I need to take that because I just feel like furthering my education would help. And so it took a little while. I had to, drive the hour drive to find a decent place to move to. I found one. And my father helped. We got a U-Haul, and my father, he didn't help with the packing, but he helped with putting the boxes in and everything. And also the guy that I was renting from, it was like I don't know what you call it, maybe like a duplex. It was like a house, but there was like 2 other apartments on the side. I was in the front one, and then there was 2 on the side. And the gentleman that I rented from was such a sweet man. He was so loving and so caring. And he always told me, he says, I love the closeness that you have between you and your child. It really makes me feel good. And he gave me my full deposit back and said, I hope the best for you. I hope everything is grand. I mean, he was the nicest landlord you could ever meet. He was so cool. And I thought, wow, here I am with me and my child, and we're going on a new adventure. And so we got to the new place and got in opened up the U-Haul and started bringing boxes up to the new apartment. And I just was so excited, I'm just like, oh my God, all the things I wanted are starting to come true. Now, I was a little hesitant moving back to my hometown, but I just felt like, I'm familiar with it. I know where things are, which is very cool. And, again, a new adventure. I'm so excited about going to school. So the day that we are moving in, the day that my father is helping me bring boxes up to my new apartment, and I'm just buzzing, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to, start school, and this is going to be so great. And my father says to me, good luck with that. What are you going to do with your child? I said, what do you mean? You said that you were going to watch my child while I go to school if I need to. If I have classes in the afternoon or even evening, you said you would watch my child so that I could go to school. He goes, well, I might be able to watch your child once in a while, but I can't do it all the time. I'm busy. And I just looked at him like he was an alien. I moved from a location I was really happy at, where I had everything. I felt like I was getting all together. I really had everything together. I moved back to my hometown because you said you would watch my child so I could go back to school. And he says, well, that's really your problem. It's not mine. Like I said, I'll watch your child once in a while, but I can't do it all the time. I have other things to do. And I looked at him. I said, why did I move here then? He said, well, at least we're closer, so, I can watch your child once in a while. I was floored. I was speechless. Here I moved from a place I was so happy at to a place that I was a little hesitant about, but I thought, it'll bring all the benefits that I need for myself, for my child. I thought this was going to be the best move ever. And it turns out the whole reason why I moved was revoked literally the day I moved in. And it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And I was like, I don't even know what to think. I don't know what to say anymore. I actually did try. I was still working full time all night long. And so I tried to make it work. I took one class in philosophy just to start myself off at, and that went well. But then the next semester, I tried to get 3 classes. One was canceled. One was a philosophy course taught by a nurse who didn't know anything about philosophy. And another was it's kind of a music appreciation class. These were like classes I needed to take along with my core classes to graduate. So that's why I was trying to do variety to make it interesting. The English class I set, that's the one that got canceled. So the music course that I decided to take was run by an older gentleman who was very soft-spoken, and the students in the class were so loud and obnoxious, just talking over this guy who obviously knew a whole lot about music, and I was so interested, but the class was so rowdy, nothing happened. And so I just decided, you know what, I'm just done. I'm dropping out of these classes. I'm running myself ragged, exhausted anyway, trying to go to these classes from like 9 to 1. And I should be sleeping after, working all night long. And I just said, God, this isn't worth it. This isn't working. So I just went on about my days. I still, making decent money. I still had the same job. So I didn't have to worry about money coming in. But I wasn't getting what I needed, why I moved in the first place. It was very disappointing. The good thing is I don't know, years later, online schools, you could take online courses through regular universities, and I finally did manage to get my education. So I was very happy about that. So I guess that is the happy part of the story. But my dad never crawled to me and apologized to me. He didn't go broke and beg me to help him, and I didn't get rich either. You know, I had my education. The thing is I'm not really able to use it. So that sucks. It's nice to have, and I owe a fortune. And I'm broke as fuck. But I am pleased that I got that education. It does make me feel good to have gone through that. But it didn't exactly end in the results that all these stories are talking about. And I know I'm not the outlier here. I know there's a lot of people that go to school and then do something different with their lives, change their mind, whatever. It happens. It really does. And honestly, I wanted to get that education as a backup that I wasn't really able to use, but anyway, I guess I could use it. I've got a master's in psychology and I've got a master's in education, so I could probably use those towards teaching, but the educational system is rotted. It's horrible. It's terrible. I still have the teaching bug in me, so whenever I get the opportunity, I do use it. I've helped neighbors' kids with learning how to read better, and I've done a few things. I also play guitar, and I've given lessons for that. So I've found little ways to make a little extra cash on the side, doing things that I really enjoy doing. I just never really found a way of making a living out of it. But that's okay. I mean, I still have a good job. So I'm not doing great. Definitely struggling still. And my father is dead. So that's not going to be resolved. And of course, any inheritance was taken by his wife. So I'm not going to see any of that either, which honestly was kind of sad for me because I thought, maybe we didn't get along perfectly. Maybe we hadn't talked in a while, but I was hoping that he would still think of me, let me know, and even if it was just a letter just to say, hey, I still love you, or hey, something. I didn't get anything, and that was really disappointing because I thought I would at least get that, but I didn't. I just was wiped from his mind by his wife, I guess. And that's sad, So there's no victory here like in those stories. But again, I know I'm not the only one here who's still struggling, who's still trying to figure things out, even in this late stage of life. Everything isn't perfect. Everything, I don't have $1 million home or a condo. I don't, I'm not rich. I don't have the fantastic marriage, or I do have a fantastic kid, so I got that. But, it didn't turn out like that. But the thing is, I'm not necessarily sad about it. The way I live my life is the way I chose to live my life. And I've had a lot of fun adventures. And I've met a lot of really amazing people. Also some really horrible people. Um, but also some really amazing people. And I can't, I'm not mad at that. You know, everything isn't perfect. Everything didn't go the way I had hoped. But I still got what I wanted out of it. I still got my education. I'm really happy about that. I did really well. I kind of was a nice way to prove to myself I'm not a worthless idiot that I was told most of my life. That I'm actually kind of smart and I actually know stuff now. And that feels good. I like that. There's value in that. A little too high a price, maybe. But there is some value in getting that education, having it. You know, it's mine. And I still struggle. I still have bad days. I've been having a lot of not feeling very good days. But, you know, you just kind of trudge through it. You do your best. I find that taking vitamins help so that I don't feel so sleepy and exhausted all the time. So I'm still there. I'm still kicking. I'm still doing well. And honestly, if I were gone tomorrow, I wouldn't regret a thing. You know, maybe I didn't always make the best choices in my life, but I made the right choices for me and for my child. You know, now they make their own choices, but I don't feel bad about it. You know, was I frustrated when I moved to my hometown and then just got denied by my father? Yeah, that sucked. But I made it work. I made it work for me and for my child so that we could still do decent. You know, I'm not rich. I probably never will be rich. But we made it through. We really did. And to me, that's a triumph in itself. It really is. I just don't regret anything. I wish my life maybe had gone better. I mean, that's always kind of a hope. And I'm still alive, so it still can. I'm not knocking that down yet. But I think that's why I sympathize with Beck so much. Because they have gone through so much. And by the way, they got through their surgery. They're doing A-okay. And so I'm very happy for them. But I get it, you know. And I guess it's frustrating when people say like, oh my God, everything sucks. When is it going to get better for you? That's horrible. Oh my God, it's one thing after another, never stops. Sometimes life is like that. You know, it's not Beck's fault that they were ill or that they needed surgery. It's not Beck's fault for that. It happens to anyone, to everyone. You see, I knew a guy who, I used to work at a health club, and I knew a guy who was the peak of health, 42 years old, well built, even had abs, you know, the six-pack and everything. And one day he just keeled over and died. He had a heart attack. And there was no real warning sign. He was a healthy guy, ate healthy, went to his doctor appointments for his yearly checkups, did all the right things. And he just died. Just one day, boom. You know? So there's no guarantee what's going to happen in life. So you just got to live it the way you think is best to live it. And that's what I have done. And has it been a perfect life? No. But you know what? I always feel hopeful. You know, there's days where, you know, you just don't feel good and you just feel blah. But I always have that little spark of hope that says, you know what? You're going to feel better. And then you're going to get up and you're going to do this or you're going to do that. And it's going to be fine. And, you know, we just got to keep cheerleading for ourselves. Because really, I think that's what most people need. When they're just not feeling well, when things aren't going quite right, you just got to cheerlead yourself. Or if you're lucky enough to have somebody in your life that will cheerlead for you, that's awesome too. But I'm going with doing it yourself. You just got to cheerlead yourself and say, you know what? This sucks. But you know what? It could get better. Let's try to make it better. Let's try to do something to make it better. Let's go have some food. You know, let's go take a shower. Let's put on some clean clothes or your favorite little socks. I have a little thing for kooky, crazy socks. So, whatever your thing is that makes you feel better, do that. Make yourself feel better. Give yourself permission to feel better. And maybe when you're scrolling through those ridiculous stories, you'll be like myself and say, you know what? I don't need to listen to this. I don't need to scroll endlessly because my life is all right. It's not perfect, but my life is all right. And I have much better things to do than listen to these fakey ass stories that they're like fantasy stories, What's your fantasy? Oh, I become rich and all the people that treated me badly beg for my forgiveness. That's a fantasy. I mean, is it fun to think about things like that? Sure, why not? But it's so much more fun when you can be in reality and realize, okay, yeah, my situation isn't perfect, but guess what? I got a good job. I got a decent little house apartment, whatever. I got a decent little apartment that I live in that I like. I've got neighbors that are kooky and crazy and fun and make life exciting. I've got things near me that are helpful. And, like a grocery store and some fast food places in case I'm in the mood, shopping centers, things like that. And I'm not saying that those things are important, but it's always nice to have those things around. So, I gotta go get my eyes checked. Oh, that's real close to me. I can walk there. And it's just nice to have that convenience, if you know what I mean. But the point is it's not always bad. You don't have to base your life on fantasy tales and think, oh, if my life isn't like that, I must be failing. Because you're not. I'm not failing. I'm still kicking. I'm still doing what I gotta do and doing some fun stuff on the side as well. Got my little hobbies and things that I enjoy and that bring me great pleasure. If I am happy and joyful, how could that be bad? Even if I lived in a cardboard box, how could that be bad? If I'm happy, if I'm, going along doing what I feel that I need to do, that's a good thing. I'm getting these things done. That's a good thing. I'm getting my bills paid, mostly. That's a good thing. And you just keep trucking. You just keep going. So fantasy stories, I guess they can be fun. But you don't have to live your life based on fantasy stories. You can live your life in reality. And reality can be okay. Because you are in charge of your reality. You can, if you don't like it, change it. And if you're not sure how to change it, figure it out. Or ask somebody. That's essentially what therapy is you're in a position that you don't like and you want it different. So you go to a professional who can help you to make it different, to change your perspective, whether it's through medications or whether it's through just learning to retrain your brain, through repetition, etc., which a lot of therapy is based on as well. Yeah, you can change it. You can change it into a place that's closer to what you want. And the good part is you can wake up every morning hopeful and thinking, I'm going to do at least one thing that will make my situation change. Will it do it overnight? It may not. It may take years. It may take a week. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that every day you wake up, you feel that courage and you feel that strength to say, okay, today, this is what I'm going to do. Set a goal for yourself that brings you up. If it's just waking up, sometimes that's all you can do, then you've accomplished that. Tick that box. If it's taking a shower, tick that box. And if you realize that when you're getting up, these things are getting accomplished, that just makes you feel even better and encourages you to keep going. And sometimes it is that simple. Sometimes getting up, get something to eat, take a shower, wear your favorite stupid socks or whatever it is that you like. Maybe a shirt, maybe a sweater, whatever it is that you like. Maybe a really cool pair of pants or a skirt or a dress. It doesn't matter. Put something on that makes you feel good or makes you feel cozy. And just do the next thing. See how much you can do in a day. Whether it's just, and I don't mean it as just, because everything is meaningful. When I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is feed my 2 cats. That makes me feel good because they're happy, they're chowing down, and then I clean the kitty box. I do it twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, to make sure that it's nice for them. Because I know that I would appreciate somebody cleaning my bathroom for me twice a day. And just those little things, it gives you a reason to get up and to get going. And once you start going, the ball rolls. And you keep going. And sure, might need to take a nap. Okay, take a nap. You need to go to your job and it was rough. Sometimes you're going to have a rough day, but you keep going. And even though that job is rough, you're getting paid. It's always the positive. You got to think on the positive. It really helps to change your life because little by little, a lot of those things you don't even think about anymore. You just do them because now you have bigger goals to achieve that day. Oh yeah, I get up, feed the cats, clean the cat box, make some breakfast, take a shower. Okay, now I'm going to start the day. You see what I mean? It just becomes habitual, but it keeps you going. And you just do more and more things. I think that's why people always get frustrated with somebody like Amberlynn Reid, because Amber does nothing. She'll talk a good game, but she does nothing. She just sits there and makes good money doing that. I mean, good for her for that. If she didn't have YouTube, what would she have? And I have to admit, I have to giggle a little bit knowing that her aunt is suing her because of all the horrible things she said. Finally being forced to take some accountability. I'm all for that. I don't think it'll do anything beneficial for Amber because she just doesn't seem to care. She gave up a long time ago. And it's sad. And you keep hoping that maybe that'll change, but it just won't change. She won't change. She just will always be awful. But at least taking a little accountability. I don't know if she'll learn anything or not, but it makes me happy. I'm sure it'll make Aunt Tammy happy to teach her a lesson that maybe, hopefully she'll learn something from. At least, don't talk about people and talk about things that they have or haven't done unless you know for sure. It really does make me happy. I want her to take accountability and grow up a little bit. I really would like to see that. Same with our local murderer. Well, not local to me, but you know what I mean. Gypsy. That's all anybody wants, is for her to take accountability and then do something positive with it. She'll never do that. She just never will. Everybody, it's sad to see so many people taking her side because she uses that little voice, and she's, 4'11" or something, and people think, oh, she's just so cute and so sweet. No, she's not. I like to see her take accountability as well. But if she did, it would be just for show. Same with Amber. They're very much alike. And they're both very miserable. I guess that's the only solace that I have in it. So I don't like to see people miserable, but when people make everything around them so miserable, it's like you get what you give. You're a miserable person. You make everyone else miserable, which is why I try not to be that. I try to be positive. It doesn't always work, but you keep trying. Anyway, this was a ramble. But I hope you enjoy listening anyway. And I guess that's all I got to say.